We've all heard of the popular saying of opposites attract. I'm going to explain why that concept doesn't really apply very well to high vibrational love and romantic relationships or connections. So we've all heard about that opposite attracts and how one complements the other. And while there is some truth to that, when it comes to a person who has done the inner work to evolve and to grow into a higher vibrating version of themselves and are consistently living in a more high vibrational way, the concept of opposites attracting doesn't really work very well. And I'll tell you why. As you raise your vibration and your frequency, we release the trauma, the toxic patterns, and all of the things that used to attract us to particular types of individuals or relationship dynamics. So once we are in a different space, we begin to attract more like energy, right? More like frequency. So these are people who resonate with us where we're at. And I'm not talking about dating or connecting with someone who is our clone or someone who dresses like us, looks like us, all of these type of more superficial things. I'm referring to a frequency, a feeling, or a vibration. So I'll give you a down-to-earth example of trying to connect with someone who is so opposite in our frequency that it simply doesn't work when we're in a higher vibrational state. For instance, some of you may like to wake up and start your day in a particular way. A lot of spiritual people wake up with meditation and whatever that means for them. Whether it's waking up quietly, lighting a candle, drinking your lemon water, praying, listening to music, journaling, maybe stepping into nature, whatever it is, you tend to develop some sort of routine around this. And usually high vibrational people like waking up a certain way and like sort of structuring their day in a certain way, or not structuring it, or going with the flow. It's different for everyone. So if you're waking up and you're wanting to quietly meditate and to check in with yourself, your emotions, your body, if you want to connect to higher self, God, whatever, you want to pray, and you're in a relationship with someone who likes to begin their day the completely opposite way. Let's say they wake up immediately, go to their apps, and they're watching the news and they're absorbing a lot of negative energy, and they begin their day sort of already setting themselves up to be anxious, to be worried about the next thing that's happening, or to be fearful, or to get themselves in a bad mood. How is it that you all are going to come together in a harmonious way? How is it that two individuals who are operating, one from peace and reflection and one from fear and anxiety, how does that coexist together in a cohesive way? Also, if you have a person whose personality or disposition is of a lower vibrating way, and you're the opposite, what are you going to do together? What are you going to talk about that is on the same level? When you have someone who's persistently maybe in a state of anger, or a person who is disrespectful of not only themselves, but you, a person who doesn't value themselves or you, because if you don't value yourself, you can't value other people. If you don't respect yourself or your mind space or your body, you can't offer that to another person. So these are just really, really, really basic things. And I could give other examples. These are basic things about how the inconsistency, incompatibility can creep in. And this happens a lot to some relationships where you outgrow that person vibrationally. It's not that perhaps they're a bad person, but when you begin to operate in completely different ways, you almost become two people living in the same space maybe, but that's it. You're living in the same space physically, but you're spiritually, emotionally, and mentally in two completely different spaces. So that's not really conducive to an actual relationship, because the term relationship means to be in relation and how you relate to someone else as yourself. So when you find yourself in a position of being physically only with the person and vibrationally you are no longer with the person, this is when you need to do some self-reflecting to see if this relationship is for your higher good. And I recently uploaded a video, how to know when a relationship is no longer for your higher good. I will leave a link for that. I suggest you check that out, as well as related videos and ebooks I'll leave in the description box. So when you also do not feel good when you're around this person, our feelings and our intuition is extremely important when it comes to this. Once someone is out of a vibrational match for you and they're misaligned with you, you'll begin to feel physically, mentally, spiritually uncomfortable, uneasy, and unbalanced when you are in their presence. This is very important to pay attention to. And I understand that relationships are complicated, and sometimes we can't get out of them right when we feel like we should. Sometimes it takes reaching a certain point to where you literally cannot deal with it anymore, and you remove yourself, right? So when we feel misaligned, that is also a situation where the opposite does not attract, it actually repels. Anything that is not a vibrational match for you, once you've ascended to a higher vibration, will be repelled from you and you from it. That's also a very strong indication where opposites do not attract. If you become a person or a person who studies and does lots of inner work, shadow work, you study philosophies, you study spiritual systems such as Buddhism, Zen, anything really. We don't have to be religious in order to take certain things from different spiritual systems and apply it to what resonates with us. So when you begin to really live these studies, not just study it, but actually apply it into your life and your personality, certain energies will not be able to persist, and likewise you persist alongside with them. If you've learned to let go of anger, and when I say let go of it, I don't mean to not acknowledge if you feel anger and feel it, because that's important. You can't ignore feelings. But when you consistently have learned to operate with wisdom, when you let certain things go, when you're not so hyped and ready to get into an argument or to drain your energy with trying to prove points to people or to do things, and you begin to operate naturally and organically in that space. So if you're with a partner who's not yet reached that point, or maybe they won't ever reach that point, because inner change has to begin with the inner desire, right? Nothing that you can do, or you can only live as an example. So when you're with a person who is opposite of that, how do you go through life together at this point in an equally yoked partnership? It becomes more and more and more challenging. If you're walking around in the Zen state much as you can, and you're working around with a person who likes to start fights with people on the street for little things, this is just an example, How is that an aligned relationship? How is that an energy that is compatible with you at this point? It's not. So these are some things that we have to think about when it comes to opposites attract. You may have a very, very different look from your partner. You may have a different personality disposition, and that's fine. But there might be a vibrational match, meaning you two might be opposite in some aesthetic or superficial ways, but vibrationally, you're a match. So this is what I mean by a vibrational match. So we're not talking about going after or pursuing or allowing people who are just like you in almost every way, because first of all, that's boring. And second of all, it's you don't want to date yourself. What you want to date is a vibrational match. And this is this is a message I'm trying to get over. So I use certain examples of this, like anger and just the person's routines and things like this. Because once you're high vibrational, you more than likely have some sort of routine, even if you're a free-flowing type of person. And you have things that you do in a certain way. You have begun to understand that your body is a temple. You may find yourself eating healthier, being more physically active. You may find yourself doing all of these things. And if you're with a partner who is not this way and does not value these things, then we have to really take a hard look and see, is this a person that I can share my life with in a way that feels easy and that feels right? So it's not something that is easy all the time. We have to release these connections that no longer feel aligned with us. And while it's difficult and challenging, we must do this, because when we release these relationships that are misaligned, it makes space for those that are aligned. So these are hard choices and decisions that we have to make. But if we don't make them, we'll find ourselves settling. We'll find ourselves stuck. We'll find ourselves miserable in a connection that is no longer good for us. And it's not good for the other person either, because you are no longer a vibrational match for that person as well. So you're looking at a situation where neither party is happy or fulfilled. So out of love, we release these connections. If you'd like to learn more about high vibrational love and relationships, I have a video series on that. I have an ebook companion to that you can download, show support if you want. Purchase, it's immediately downloaded once you purchase on my Patreon website, patreon.com/I am joyful healer. And that gives a little bit more deeper insight as to how we can attract higher vibrational relationships into our reality. I do want to thank you so much for either listening to this or watching this. And if you are listening or watching on YouTube and you enjoy the content that I share, hit the subscribe button, share this video with someone you may think would also benefit from it. And I will see you in the next one. Peace and bliss. We've all heard of the popular saying of opposites attract. I'm going to explain why that concept doesn't